Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Me, female 25, and my best friend, also female 25, who we will call Anna, went to spend a fun day at a large theme bar close to our home. It was on a particularly busy school holiday, the week of their Halloween special, so I had never seen the place so packed. You could easily wait for 1.5 hours for the main rides everyone wanted to do. All day long we've seen dozens of people caught in these ginormous lines, with lousy excuses such as trying to reunite with an imaginary relative who's conveniently all the way up the line. Where I'm from, it isn't common behavior. Where I'm from, it isn't uncommon behavior, and even though people disapprove, they are unlikely to make a scene. However, on this day it happened way more often than usual. We even saw 2 youth group coordinators who did it with their 20 kids. By the end of the day, we were ready to lose it on the next person who would try to do that in front of us. Nevertheless, we were having a great time, catching up and drinking hot pumpkin soup while we waited in line. Then we see a woman who's passing everyone behind us. I exchange a look with Anna and we position ourselves to subtly block the way. The entitled mother comes up to me and tells me she's here with her family, but they are already further in line. And would I please let her pass, blah blah blah. Her teenage daughter is standing behind her, and I say no. And she looks absolutely gobsmacked. Then I notice Anna is having the same conversation with a man, the entitled dad I didn't notice before, who's holding the hand of a little boy about 7 years old. So we assume they are all together and conjointly tell them they are pushing it too far trying to cut the line as a group of 4. The entitled mother then laughs faintly and tells me that they are not together, pretty certain it will help her case. It becomes apparent there are 2 different groups. But it's the last straw for us. 2 different entitled people. At the same time, I am ripe to make a scene. Anna and I tell the entitled mother and the entitled dad they can wait in line like the rest of us. And if the rest of their families are really further in the line, the relatives can wait for them. The entitled dad is not having it and gives everyone the shoulder to pass, with his small kid in tow. We don't really try to block him as he's very violent, pushing people around and everyone's afraid to hurt the little boy who's being dragged by his father and barely protecting his face with his arm. Though, we're still blocking the entitled mother and her teenage daughter. She then starts to negotiate with me. But how could I deny a loving family their last ride together? But it's the holiday. Shouldn't we be nice to each other on a day like this? But she asked nicely, so how could I say no? She's on to me non-stop for 20 minutes with her guilt trip. I keep telling her no. I explain she's not the first one to do that today, that we are on holidays too, and want to get on that ride as much as anyone in that line. I tell her again, her relatives could wait for her if riding together is so important. At some point I just repeat no over and over. Then I just stop answering her, ignore her, drinking sips of my pumpkin soup while she keeps talking to the wind for 15 more minutes. I exchange a few looks with Anna while we both try to contain our laughter in this absurd situation. My friend was listening in on the interaction, but she didn't intervene much. I knew she agreed though, and she isn't shy. She just thought I was doing fine telling this entitled mother off on my own. But the entitled mother doesn't know her, so she assumes her silence means she might still have an ally. She turns to my friend and says, "But you should discuss it with each other, don't you think? Before giving an answer, I mean." I replied that I gave her an answer already, as I repeated no multiple times. But she insists that I never said no, and for Anna to share her thoughts. So I asked my friend with a smile, "Do you think we should let this lady pass?" And she replies loud and clear, "No," with a chuckle. The entitled mother now looks on the verge of tears. She calls us witches as she thinks we're obviously enjoying tormenting her. Anna replies it's a good thing we fit the Halloween theme so well then. And the entitled mother tries to push us aside, but we're not moving. We certainly didn't plan on going full force to block her, but she didn't know that. Someone else might have smacked her in the mouth right there. She pushes hard in a proper fury. We let her pass when she shoves us more violently aside, surprised by the confidence such a frail woman has that no one would dare lay hands on her even after she assaulted them. But then she's confronted with the family that was right in front of us. Obviously, everyone has been watching the scene attentively, and people won't let her pass after the bit she did. So she starts negotiating all over again, playing the victim like no other. Her daughter is just standing there on the phone, trying to not make eye contact with anyone the whole time. The entitled mother is talking to the other group, telling them how mean we were to her, and that we were obviously conspiring to mess with her with the knowing looking grins we exchanged between us. I say we exchanged those looks only because she was being ridiculously entitled and became laughable at some point. Then I told her I had a mom just like her who would have such tantrums in public, and when I was a teen I could have died from embarrassment, and that her daughter looks very embarrassed by the way. This gets her riled up and she throws some of the things she had at me and keeps yelling how I wouldn't even dream of having a mom like her and that I should leave her daughter alone and never speak on her, and so on. Someone must have called security when things got out of hand because we found them coming and dragging Karen before she tried to throw anything else at me. I ended up insisting on pressing charges on her for assault, since what she threw at me earlier actually connected to my head. And if I pay attention now, I think I can still hear her voice ringing in my ear because of how much she was yelling and screaming about how unfair this whole thing was. Okay, this just happened and I'm still in shock and laughing at the same time. I work in retail and we rent out the Bissell carpet cleaning machines and we sell the solution. Guy comes in with a carpet cleaner while I'm covering the return register, hands me the receipt and I inspect the cleaner. I go to do the return process for it when he hands me an unopened bottle of cleaning solution and says he wanted to return that too. No problem, right? I double check the bottle to make sure it's not open. I scan the barcode for the SKU number and realize it's not on the same receipt. And I go to explain that to him and he gets irritated with me. I somehow manage to stay calm and try to explain it again, but he's just getting more angry. So I call my manager over and try to tell him, but this guy won't stop interrupting. So my manager tries to say what I already said. It's not just on a receipt, so it could be on a different one. So let's check. But he says something along the lines of, "Oh, you're really gonna be this difficult?" Then grabs the solution and walks out the door before I can even ask him, "Do you want your deposit back for the cleaner?" Well, since he was gone before I could ask, he didn't get the deposit back. I will update if he returns. Later, my manager looked up the guy's receipt. The solution wasn't even there. We looked up the guy's name in our system, and he never bought it anywhere that we can see. Honest mistake or not, he just took our cleaning solution. As a celebration to being fully vaccinated, myself and my family decided we were going to go away for a week to go whale watching. Such a trip needs supplies, so my family heads to the market of Wolves to get groceries and such. So to start, what we were wearing, my mother was wearing a blue dress with short sleeves, trimmed with white flowers design, and beige khakis. Oh yeah, she also had a service dog too, vest and all. A praise dog for those who are curious. My father was wearing a grey button-up shirt and black pants. Finally, I was wearing blue jeans and a green shirt that read, "I'd make a Zelda pun, but I don't wanna try and force it." Service dog, who I will shorten to Doggo, was wearing his service vest. When we entered the market of walls, my mother and father went one way, and I went the other way. I was to get things like sunscreen and stuff while my parents got the food. We were bringing our own food since the food there is super expensive. As such, this part is secondhand from my parents, but I will embellish with the classic Karen tropes. They were in the frozen food aisle picking out some burgers and sausages for our grills. They at first heard the classical "excuse me" when choosing between Mazza burgers and barbecue sauce burgers. They had just ignored it, but my mother felt Doggo tugging at the leash, trying to get her attention. Not something he was trained to do, just really smart. Mom turned around and saw our Karen for the story. She was clearly confused by the blue dress and began asking my mom where something was in the aisles. Obviously, my mother said that she didn't work there, and this sicked Karen off. My father heard the conflict and approached them, but the grey button-up shirt made Karen think he was a manager. I wish I could explain more, but, as I said, this was second-hand. At this point, Karen must have stepped on Doggo's tail because, as I was heading back to find my parents, I heard poor Doggo yelp loudly, which is out of character for him, and I took off running. I arrived at the scene with my mother trying to comfort Doggo, his tail slightly red from blood, and my mother tending to it, my father arguing with Karen, and an employee wearing a blue shirt, black pants and an apron coming up. The employee is trying to figure out what is going on, and Karen is going on about how disrespectful my mother and the manager are being. The employee is trying to explain the whole concept of us being customers, but Karen wasn't listening. I took the employee aside and asked him to get the real manager, and I approached Karen. I should note I run roleplay games, and through that have learned how to improvise. I ask, "What is going on here?" Karen looks at me. "Who are you?" "I'm the manager. What are you doing here?" My father gave me a confused look and went to say something, but I stopped him. Karen looked over my cheesy t-shirt and all and scoffed. "You're not the manager. You're just some kid." "I'm 29 by the way." "Okay. Then what about my parents is telling you they work here?" Karen stopped and looked at my parents, and you can see gears turning in her head. My father saw that I had things under control and he went to help my mother, who doesn't work well under stress. "Okay, now that you're listening, what happened to Doggo?" Karen stuttered. "I don't know." "That better be true. Doggo is a trained service dog, and is worth probably more than what you make in a year." I need to." "No, you are staying right here till the manager gets here. Doggo is hurt, and I want to know why." Karen must have been intimidated into staying, which is a surprise to me, which will be explained later. Eventually the manager arrives. 10 minutes later, guess the situation wasn't urgent enough, along with a pair of police officers who must have been called by someone. Karen tried to defend herself weakly, but all the breeze she had in her sails against my parents were gone. The manager came back and confirmed Karen stomped on Doggo's tail when Doggo got between my mom and Karen. He sat down in front of the two to stand his ground, but he wrapped his tail to his side to keep it out of the way, meaning it looked like on camera Karen also kicked Doggo. I saw red, but I let my parents take care of things. They pressed charges on Karen and the manager paid for our groceries personally, telling us he apologizes and that he should have banned her earlier. When we got back to the van, I started crying. You see, something I neglected to say was I'm not a confrontational person. Seeing Doggo hurt, my mother crying and my dad about to deck Karen, I snapped. I was actually scared of what I would do. If Karen didn't stand down, I was a bit afraid of what I might have done. Luckily, it didn't come to that. Mom is staying home with Doggo today while myself and Dad do some running around. She is still shaken up and we would rather not add more stress to her. Thanks for reading and sorry it's a bit messy, I just wanted to get this down. I needed to get this off my chest and felt writing about it would help. Court is hopefully going to be after the whale watching trip, but I haven't heard anything about it. Important update. Doggo is physically going to be okay. The vet said the scrape, as he described it, is shallow and should heal. Unfortunately, he will be committed to the cone of bravery when not on duty until it heals to make sure he doesn't make it worse. Mentally, well, have no updates on that, but he seemed to be normal around family. As for charges on Karen, interference of service animal, willful injury of a service animal abuse, assault, destruction of property, disrupting the peace and more. She is facing upwards to 5 years in prison minimum. However, nothing official has been decided yet. I'll keep you posted. Background. So strap in, it's gonna be a bumpy ride. So I recently got laid off from my delivery driver job at a company with the name shall remain anonymous. I will pretty much take amounts of lumber and construction materials that were too small for our semi-drivers. We would deliver to a lot of places around the DFW area. About 5 months in, I got an order for a site in a nicer residential area. I picked out the product I needed to take out there and drove out that way. The moment I get out to the site and start dropping the product at the site, and out come Karen. I get out to the site and start dropping the product at the site, and out comes Karen.
Hey, I need your workers to keep it down with their nail guns, or whatever tool they are using.
I was obviously confused. I'm sorry, I don't work for the builders. You must have mistaken me for. I'll preface this now. We had to wear a uniform like most customer service guys at the office, because technically we were still customer service, which in my opinion is nonsense, but hey, I don't make the rules. She must have taken my devilishly good looks as someone who is a manager. Before I could get the words out of my mouth, she says,
I've seen you here before talking to the workers, so don't give me that nonsense. I need to take my 12 o'clock nap and it's disturbing my slumber.
Ma'am, like I was going to say, I don't work for the builders. If you have a problem with the noise, you need to talk with them. The construction office is somewhere around here.
No, I need you to give me your corporate number now.
So now the gears in my head start turning. I gave her the personal number to my manager. She has the biggest grin I've ever seen. I drop the rest of my product and leave. I get back after my run and he pulls me aside and asks me if I gave a lady his number. I asked him what she said. He just burst out laughing and said, I have never had so much fun convincing a lady that I'm gonna fire you. I didn't get fired, by the way, so Karen, screw you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.